The rain had been falling all day. Thin streams of water snaked down the windshield as Amira parked outside the corner store. She didn't think twice about it. She'd been here before. This was supposed to be a quick trip. Bread, milk, maybe a jar of honey if she remembered. Nothing unusual. But in a town like Willow Creek, where everyone claims to know each other, sometimes they only know the version of you they've already decided on. Amira, 26, new to the town, taught English at the local middle school. Her kids adored her, and most of the adults smiled when they saw her, at least in public. That night, the store was half empty, lit by flickering fluorescent tubes that hummed softly above. She grabbed a cart, shook the rain from her coat, and stepped inside. Since moving here, Amira had learned to read the signs. Not the ones hanging over the aisles, the other kind. The glances that lasted just a little too long. The tone in a voice that changed depending on who was listening. Some days it was harmless curiosity. "Where are you really from?" people would ask, smiling but not quite meaning it as a compliment. Other days, it was subtle distance, like the way people at the library would shift their bags when she sat down. Still, she gave people the benefit of the doubt. She'd tell herself it was just habit, just coincidence. That's why, when she approached the cashier that night with a small smile, she didn't expect anything in return. She got nothing back. No smile. No words. Just a quick glance and then eyes darting away. She wandered through the aisles, tossing a loaf of bread into her basket. Milk next, then the honey. That's when she noticed him. A man in a faded baseball cap leaning against a shelf of potato chips. No cart, no basket, and just watching. Amira turned away, trying not to make it a bigger deal than it was. But as she headed toward the register, another presence caught her attention. The store's security guard, tall, broad, and expressionless, had begun following her. At first, it was just a few steps behind. Then, always in the same aisle. She stopped, pretended to check a price tag. He stopped too. When she reached the counter, the guard stepped closer. "Ma'am," he said, his voice carrying through the quiet store. "I need to check your bag." Her eyebrows pulled together. "I haven't even paid yet," she replied. "We've had incidents," he said flatly. "Need to be sure." The man in the baseball cap chuckled from across the aisle, muttering something under his breath. She didn't have to hear the whole word to know exactly what it was. A heavy silence fell. The cashier kept scanning her items without looking up. Amira's hands trembled as she reached for her wallet. The guard stood so close now she could smell the faint scent of his cologne, mixed with the rain on his jacket. Then a voice broke the tension. "Why are you treating her like this? She hasn't done anything." It was a young woman standing in line behind her. Her tone was calm, but every word cut through the air. The guard hesitated. The cashier's face flushed red. The man in the baseball cap shook his head and walked out. Amira turned to the woman, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you." The woman met her eyes. "I've been where you are. I'm not letting it slide." Amira paid, took her bag, and walked outside into the rain. She stood still for a moment, letting the drops soak into her coat, the cool water mixing with the warmth of tears she didn't want to admit were there. Back home, Amira sat at her small desk. Her apartment was quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. She could have let it go, told herself it wasn't worth it. But the silence after moments like this only made them easier to repeat. So she opened her laptop and began to type. Not an angry post. Not an attack, just the truth, what happened and how it felt. The post spread. Some people reached out to apologize. Others said nothing. A week later, she returned to that same store. The same guard was there, This time he didn't follow her. He gave her a brief nod. It wasn't an apology, but maybe it was the start of one. Final message. Racism doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. In suspicion, in silence, in stares. And it only ends when someone, anyone, has the courage to say, "This isn't right."